If you were offered a whopping $1,000 per day to participate in a 2-week unknown behavioral experiment, would you accept it? Today, I'm going to share you the mistakes made by characters and what you should do to survive if you ever find yourself in the experiment. The story begins with this man named Travis who has just been fired from his part-time job due to the government's downsizing. To express his dismay, he went to the peace rally and met a lovely woman named Bay. They get along so well, but it turns out the girl has a scheduled plan to travel in India. She urged Travis to join her, but Travis didn't have enough money nor work to mend the situation. That night, Travis browsed through a local newspaper and thought of a crazy idea. There are participants wanting in an undergoing behavioral experiment wherein it was deemed safe, no experience needed either, plus it offers $1,000 a day. And come to think of it, Travis was just hoping for some miracle to happen, so he took the risk of joining to earn cash and follow Bay. The next day, he found himself signing up for the psychological experiment along with 25 other men. The scientists explained the purpose of the experiment is to examine the conditions of life inside a state penitentiary through a series of tests. Even though the experiment is conducted in a safe environment, some may be stripped off of their civil rights and some will not. Before the experiment, the scientists asked the participants about their background, if they've been involved in violence, drugs, and also asked about their religion and how they base their ethical decisions in life. Afterwards, they are forced to watch a slideshow, which is a compilation of video clips with crime, accidents, and animal violence. Now, doesn't that offer feel a little sus? Too sus, to be honest. First off, the $1,000 per day offer seems a bit too much considering that it's only a behavioral experiment, but Travis subconsciously joined because he was desperate to earn money in the quickest way possible. Imagine, the economy's barely striving and there has been a massive cutoff to part-timers, then they'll post this offer? Tempting, right? Actually, I think the offer itself is already a psychological experiment because it tests if you'll give in to money in exchange for them to test your behavior however they want to. And realistically, the majority of people would have joined. However, once the scientist has stated that some of you will be stripped of your civil rights, it should have knocked some alarm inside of you, doesn't it? More so, the slideshow has shown nothing but violence for the participants to watch. If not to test the participants' mental capabilities, the slideshow itself could activate something in them that they have never encountered before. Seeing that Travis has survived watching all the clips up to end means that he may also survive the following test in the experiment. However, I still think that behavioral experiment is not the right term for what the scientists are doing. If I'm one of the characters, I'd automatically decline the offer and tell the scientists that they should have explained the conditions prior to making us sign the papers. It's totally unfair. However, seeing that the characters didn't even blink upon hearing the terms, I guess they're all that desperate or in need of money. So let's see what they'll do in this experiment. When they arrived at the compound, the scientists gave them one final opportunity to leave if they were feeling uneasy, but nobody ended up taking the chance to leave. Hence, it has been revealed that 8 of them, including Michael Barris, Travis's friend, will be assigned the role of prison officers, while the remaining 18 will take on the role of inmates for a period of 14 days. Every participant is given a warning that they will lose all of their money, $14,000 for 2 weeks, if there is any physical assault during the experiment. Should there be any physical violence, the experiment will be terminated immediately. The rules for every detainee is to eat 3 times a day and clean their plates, don't talk unless spoken to, don't touch a guard, don't get involved in anything from the outside world, and lastly, exercise for roughly 30 minutes a day. The guards are then given a warning that the experiment will be terminated and all of the money will be lost if an inmate violates any of the rules that have been imposed on them and is not punished for it within the next 30 minutes. Almost immediately, some of the guards began harassing the inmates, and after that, the rule that stated "don't touch a guard" was broken when an inmate accidentally threw the ball to a guard. Chase, one of the guards, proposed that they punish the guy in accordance to rule number 5 before the alarm goes off, and so they made the inmates do push-ups. And despite the fact that 30 minutes had passed, the experiment did not get terminated as agreed according to the conditions. making the prison guards feel more confident. Now, this is what I'm talking about. It turns out that the behavior experiment they're talking about is seeing what these men will do by giving them superiority over another. You see, being a security officer who is in charge of prisoners is such a massive power for a person who is not even a professional officer to hold. So when the 8 learned about their power over the others, they started making them follow uncalled instructions and even bullying them. It's a right decision that the scientists included Michael Barris as a guard officer because he's sane and rational, but the rest of the guards are just grown-up bullies. The scientists should also be held accountable for not following the terms they agreed on, such as terminating the experiment when physical assault has been involved. It would be a huge mess when there are no rules for the guards, but they can punish whoever they want. One flaw I've seen in this film is that none of the volunteers express their dissatisfaction with the term, even when the scientist gives them the opportunity. Yet, it was also the scientists who emphasized that the participants' safety was the top priority, but they didn't think well about who to give power to. Or perhaps it was to unleash their aggressive side. It's also problematic since detainees cannot end their contracts at any time. The inmates are served with disgusting food and are forced to eat all of it. Travis chose to stand up this time and has caused a commotion with guards. That night, Barris had the idea to humiliate the inmates as a punishment, making him feel good about himself. The next day, one of the inmates, Benji, is in a critical condition because it turns out he lied on his application. The inmate has diabetes and needs insulin. He's beginning to die, but the experiment is not called off and the guards cannot give him the insulin because of the nothing from outside world is allowed in rule. Only Travis stopped Michael Barris from making the diabetic guy participate in the initiation, which made Barris feel disrespected. Travis's other roommate, who turns out to be a past prisoner, told him that he must stop disrespecting the guards or there will be consequences. Travis, on the other hand, just wanted to protect his diabetic friend. Within 2 days, the guards are doing horrifically cruel things to the inmates. The guards fear that they will lose their $14,000 paycheck if there is a riot among the prisoners. So with Barris as their leader, they tie Travis to a chair, humiliate him, shave his head, kick him to the ground, then several guards urinate on his face. All this because Barris wanted Travis to respect him like a real officer. Despite warnings that if anything violent happens, the experiment will end, nothing happens and nobody stops them. Okay, I take back what I said earlier with regards to Barris. I was not expecting that turn of events. How did it come to pass that Michael Barris will actually turn out to be the villain? In the beginning of the movie, it appeared as though Travis and Michael will get along with one another. But in any case, it merely demonstrates that we are truly unable to differentiate between the capabilities of other people. Because Michael Barris is such a devout Christian and a caring son to his mother, no one would have ever suspected that he would do something like that. I see that this experiment is progressing into something unpredictable, and it's pretty interesting how the characters are developing fastly. First and foremost was Travis, who seemed to not talk much but is now acknowledged by his prisoners for his courage. There's also Travis's roommate, who seemed like a bad guy at first but was just an experienced inmate. However, if we think about this rationally, both sides had wrong actions. When Travis started to humiliate the guard because they didn't want to finish the seemingly disgusting food, it triggered other inmates to express their rants too. But as guards, I get that they must maintain a sense of authority towards the prisoners, but it seems mere push-ups or workouts won't earn them respect, so Barris came up with that. I can understand that Travis only wanted fairness between guards and prisoners, but since it's an experiment, they need to act accordingly to their ranks. They are taking it too far on Travis and even did horrible stuff, especially Barris, who seems to feel so much power in his rank. So who needs to be humbled in this part is Barris. Even though he is a guard and he had authority, he should be the most rational and other guards shouldn't tolerate what he's doing. The important takeaway from this is that Travis was given many signs. Either he could keep his mouth shut and play smartly, as his roommate advised, or he could decide to act honorably and expose the guards. Either way, he had two options. It would not be reasonable to do the second choice, especially when you want to survive and earn the money, but since we're all just humans with empathy, I understand Travis's genuine motives. Anyway, let's watch and see how this movie develops. Day 4. Travis was worried about his diabetic friend, Benji, still not getting the sugar he needs. However, Benji doesn't want the guards to know that he needs insulin. So that night, Travis decided to bribe a guard his $1,000 into trying to steal the insulin from Benji's bag to save him. The guard refused to take the money, but he still decided to help. He does it, but is caught. So once again, Barris punished Travis by taking him into the bathroom and constantly ducked his head in the toilet as punishment for trying to bribe a guard. Day 5. The guard that tried to get the insulin has a bag thrown over his head by the other guards and is beaten with batons. Yet again, a rule is broken and nothing happens. They drag the beaten guard out as an example, showing the inmates that they can use violence and nothing will happen. In addition, he is stripped of his guard status and is made into a prisoner. The inmates begin to become insubordinate, all of them stripping out of their prisoner uniforms at the same time. Travis yells to a camera that he is finished, but nothing happens. Barris pulls him from the fence and slams him to the ground. Benji punches Barris in the back of the head and responds by clubbing Benji over his head with the baton, cracking his skull and causing him to begin having a seizure. All of the inmates are separated and locked in different rooms. Some of the guards are starting to knock some sense to Barris too, but he was too convinced in being a security officer as if nothing can stop them. This is getting wilder than expected. Just like what Travis said, Barris might really have some abnormalities in his mental state for him to develop into such a vicious character. But I also think it's because of Chase and other guards who are tolerating his attitude that he's grown into a villain. When he hit Benji in the head, Barris didn't even feel empathy. He was just scared that it would finish off the experiment. It seems to me that Barris started developing a sense of worship towards the red light because he feels powerful every time it does an alarm. That even if he commits physical violence towards the prisoner, the experiment will still go on. He might have forgotten the world outside, that once the experiment is over, it will be over for him too. He was too caught up in the character and it made him a perfect villain for this movie. In regards to Travis, I'm more driven to his character development because he's continuing his courageous fight for his and the inmates' rights. When he took off his prisoner uniform, others took off theirs too, meaning that they follow and recognize him as a role model. Well, he deserves it. After all the beating and punishments he got, he still manages to stay sane. However, realistically, would you rather choose to be the leader like Travis or be a normal prisoner like everyone else? Because if you think clearly about the goal, it's an experiment. After a few days, the authority and rank will be chopped off and everything will be back to normal. I guess considering that the guards are insane and the alarm is not working, it's best to just survive and take action once the experiment is over. But then again, it's Travis who was the most affected in the movie. He was involved in literally everything, from starting off the humiliation in food, getting Benji's insulin, and fighting Barris's nonsensical statements. If I were in his shoes, I guess I'd do the same, but if there's a choice to live as another prisoner, it would have been better because all they do is eat, sleep, and survive without getting attention from the guards. Anyway, let's finish the story. Day 6. Travis breaks out of the chamber where he was put into. He finds Chase about to rape an inmate and they knock him out and steal the key. One by one, they run and unlock all the prisoners from their cells. However, it's too late for Benji because he is dead. Using everything they can get, the inmates begin to break down the door to the guard's office. All of the remaining guards tell Barris they are done and begin to run for an exit. Barris follows them. All of the inmates catch up with the guards and begin to beat them. Finally, the alarms go off, signaling the end of the experiment. All of the fighting immediately stops as the gates are open, and everyone still alive walks outside and waits for the bus. They are given their $14,000 checks on the bus. The end of the movie shows that there is a news report on the test. The company had loose ties to the government, and Travis was caught on camera saying that they would testify in court. A voiceover says that the lead researcher on the project was arrested and charged with manslaughter for the death of Benji. What the point of the whole experiment was is never revealed at all, but it's obvious that it's meant to serve as a life lesson that powers has its limits. Outside of your power, we're all just normal beings, so we should always apply humility and empathy wherever we'll go. The ending of the movie shows that Travis has moved to India with the girl he met only days ago at the peace rally. Knowing that this movie is inspired from a real-life story makes it disturbing yet eye-opening to watch. At least we can cite some of the mistakes that they made along the way and not apply it to our lives. So if you're offered to participate in this experiment, what will you do? Let me know in the comments below. Thank you so much for watching, people. Check out the Beater's Guide playlist for more videos like this one. Until next time.